All right, at long last, we're ready to make our common link component. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So reminding us, so we've got our common layout component in our layout, our components directory. But we have a couple of these links scattered about in this index file, in our layout file. It's already in our common components, and then a couple of other spots. So let's create a link.js file. By the way, I'll be pushing this update to the repo so you can take a look and you can see the commit history. It's not very robust, but you will see this updated code if you want to take a look at the repo. I'll leave the link in the description. So I've got a VS Code extension that lets me quickly generate the boilerplate for this functional component. So we've got our link. I'm going to split this to the right. And then I'm going to use the link that's in our layout component as kind of a baseline. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this link. And I'm going to grab link from next link. So one issue you might notice right away is that we're importing link from next link, but then we're also creating this component, and it's got the same name, so we'll have a naming collision. So all we need to do is just update this to next link. We can call it whatever we want. And now when we're referring to the next link here, we just make sure that that name matches. Okay, so we don't want all of our links to go to the home page, so we can create a prop for our href. All I'm doing here is destructuring props. So by destructuring, rather than saying, props, and then here doing props.href, or destructuring here and doing, I'm just destructuring early in this props argument here and just pulling out href, which is a prop that we're going to pass in. So our href will be here. We can define our prop type as a string. Similarly, rather than doing prop types.string, prop types.number, whatever, we can destructure and pull out the named exports from prop types. So our href, we should expect to pass in a string. If you're not familiar with prop types, just a quick rundown of that is it's just a good way to give a heads up to fellow developers and yourself in the future. Say, hey, this prop, href should be obvious, but sometimes maybe the prop that you have isn't named super well or whatever. It's just a good way to help determine what type that you should be passing in. Next, we don't want all of our links to say my next park. We want to have a custom label, so we can create a prop for that. This should also be a string. And then the last thing that we're going to do for now is we'll make a little color variant and set up a helper for that. So we'll have a color prop. That is going to be, we'll do one of to make it a little bit more specific. And we'll say that your options are blue or green. So this doesn't prevent somebody from passing in something different. This just provides documentation saying, hey, you should only pass in blue or green. So we're going to write a little helper called get color styles. And we'll say if the color is equal to green, then we're just going to grab these styles, this green 700 and then the hover color that gets a little bit darker. And we'll return that string. If the color equals blue, then we'll return that same thing, but we'll change it to blue here, so blue. So what happens if somebody passes in a color other than green or blue? Then we just won't have color styles applied. So what we can do here is we can say like, if we'll have an array and we'll say green, blue includes color. So if the color that we pass in is not found in this array, so basically if green or blue is not passed in the color, then we can say console.warn, please use green or blue for the link component. And so again, not going to prevent anything, but you know, ideally while somebody's developing, they'll be able to see this and make that fix. So then we can invoke that function. We can say const color styles equals get color styles. And now down here, to actually inject that in the class name string, I'm going to cut these two. And instead of using a string, I'm going to use a template literal. And we'll say color styles. And then the rest. So now we have our basics set up. We have our prop types declared. So let's go ahead and try to use this. So this can be a self-closing tag now because we're not accepting children. We have a color, href, and label. So we can do our href is to the home page, and our label is my next park. And we went from all of this code here to this little bit of code, which is a nice bit of trimming. And then one thing that we want to do, or that we can do, so we can do color green, but let's say that that's like our main theme and we're going to almost always use green as like our primary link color. Rather than always doing color equals green on all of our links, what we can do is set a default prop. So there's a couple ways of doing this. I'm just going to set it here where we bring in the props, and we'll say color equals green. And now I could say color equals blue, and that would still work, but now I don't have to put color equals green every single time. And so let's just make sure that our layout component is being used. So in our home page we have it, and then our template we've got it as well. Cool. So now if I go back, just refresh this. And let's see. Oh, the issue here is we're still using the next link. So instead of using next link, we want to import this from our link common component. And now we refresh the page, we should see it. Cool. And there it is. If we inspect it, we can see the hover. If we inspect it, we can see the styles. Let's test out our console warn. So if we do color equals red. So now we have undefined here. So what we should probably do is add something for this, which we'll show in just a second. And if we check out our warnings, please use green or blue for the link component, shows up there. So we don't want to have undefined. It's not going to cause like a huge problem, but we can clean this up. And if somebody does pass in green or blue, we can just return an empty string so that it does not get applied to the class name string. Okay, cool. So now we're no longer showing our invalid styles. Let's go ahead and get rid of this color, red, and just double checking that it works on our details page as well, since it's in our layout. And here's our details page, same thing. And it's still got the classes applied and still got our little hover effect. Cool. So now down here on the details page, what we're doing is we are actually linking to the directions URL for that park. That data is dynamic. And so this is an external link. We could create a separate external link component if we wanted to. I think we can just as easily use this link component and add some logic to make it link internally or externally. So what we can do here, let's go ahead and console log the href. And so the reason I'm putting these curly braces here is so that href will log as an object, and it'll give us a nice little label here. And so let's say that we use our link from components link, and I think we're using, oh no, we're good here. Okay, so let's say label is directions, and then the href is this parkdata.directions URL. So if we flip back over, so we have the two. This green one is the common component, and then this bottom one is the one that we've been using. And if we just go to our logs, we can see the href. So one of them for our link is the / and then one of them is this external link. So what we can do, the way that internal links work is you have this / and then your path name, whereas external links are going to start with HTTP or HTTPS. So what we can do is we can say like, hey, is the first character here a /? If so, then we know that we're using an internal link. Otherwise, we're going to link externally. So we can say const is internal equals href.char at 0 equals /, and then let's console log our href and is internal and get rid of this top one. So we should see one with true and one with false. So is internal, this one is true because the first one is a / and the second one is false. So now based on that information, we can either render our like anchor tag that will link externally or our internal link. So we can say if is internal use the next link. Otherwise, we'll have an anchor tag with our label and say href equals our href. We can have the same class name. And then what we can do to open it in a new tab is we can use target equals _ blank, and then rel equals no opener, no refer. And so now I'm just refreshing, not entirely necessary, but if I go to the green one that's using our common link component, we can see that it opens in a new tab. Whereas previously the blue one, it would open in the same one. And we could have easily done that to the anchor tag in our details file. But this just shows you that now our common link component is smart enough to say, okay, if it's an internal link, open it in the same tab. Otherwise, open a new tab and go to that external link. The last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to add a class name prop to apply any other classes that we want from Tailwind. So that's going to be a string as well. And then all we need to do here is just say class name. And then those styles will be applied so we can add on any additional styles that we want. Let's give this a default of an empty string. And then we can apply some other styles. So it looks like this one was text blue, so we can say color is blue. And then we had this text center and medium text at the medium breakpoint, left align, and then we want it to display block as well. And so now we should see just our one link with these additional classes. It should be blue and then have our correct label and href that opens in a new window. So we'll go back to our app. And there we can see our new common link still opens in a new tab. If we take a look at the styles, we can see we've got the blue, and it looks like our classes are not being passed in. So let's take a look at what's happening there. So we should be seeing the additional classes that we're passing in. So we have class name. Oh, we didn't save here. That's why. Okay, so now flipping back over, and now we can see that text center and the medium text left and the block styles have been applied. So kind of a lot goes into creating common components, thinking about a bunch of different use cases. There are still some ways that we could clean this up. You know, this, I'm seeing a little bit of redundancy here with the anchor tag. But I think this is in a good spot. Now we've got a link component that can work for internal and external links and can be used across our whole application and provide some consistency. So that's it for this video. Thanks for taking a look, and I'll see you next time.